our understanding of the external observable world. Physics revealed the motion of the planets. Chemistry discovered the fundamental elements of matter. Biology has told us how to understand and treat disease. But during much of this time, there were still many unanswered questions about how something perhaps even more important to us. That something is the human mind. So we are entering into a brave new world. What makes mind so difficult to study is that other scientific phenomena described in previous slide, like the physics, chemistry, biology, etc. It is not something we can easily observe, measure, or manipulate. In addition, the mind is most complex entity in the non-universe. To give you a sense of this complexity, let us visualize that the human brain is estimated to contain 10 billion to 100 billion individual nerve cells or neurons. Each of these neurons can have as many as 10,000 connections to the other neurons. This vast web is the basis of what we call mind and gives rise to all of the equally amazing and difficult to understand mental phenomena, such as perception, memory, and language. The past several decades have seen the introduction of new technologies and methodologies for studying this intriguing organ, our brain. We have learned more about the mind in the past half century than in all the time that came before that. This period of rapid discovery has coincided with an increase in the number of different disciplines, many of them entirely new, that study mind. Since then, a coordinated effort among the practitioners of these disciplines has come to pass. This interdisciplinary approach has since become known as cognitive science. Unlike the science that came before, which was focused on the world of external observable phenomena or outer space, the outer space, what we call it. This new endeavor turns its full attention now to the discovery of our fascinating mental world or our inner space. Cognitive science can be roughly summed as the scientific interdisciplinary study of the mind. Its primary methodology is a scientific method, although, as we will see, many other methodologies also contribute. A hallmark of cognitive science is its interdisciplinary approach. I'm stressing on this interdisciplinary part. It results from the effort of researchers working in a wide array of fields. These include philosophy, psychology, linguistics, physical sciences, including electronics, instrumentation, artificial intelligence, robotics, and of course, neuroscience. Each field brings with it a unique set of tools and perspectives. When it comes to studying something as complex as the mind, no single perspective is adequate. Instead, intercommunication and cooperation among the practitioners of these disciplines tell us much more. The term cognitive science refers not so much to the sum of all these disciplines, but to their intersection or converging work on specific problems. In this sense, cognitive science is not a unified field of study like each of the disciplines themselves, but a collaborative effort among researchers working in the various fields. The glue that holds cognitive science together is the topic of mind, and for the most part, the use of scientific methods. The word cognition is defined as the act or process of knowing. Cognitive skills therefore refer to those skills that make it possible for us to know. They have more to do with the mechanisms of how we learn rather than with any actual knowledge. Cognitive skills include perception, attention, memory, and logical reasoning. Cognitive skills are the core skills your brain uses to think, read, learn, remember, reason, and pay attention. Working together, they can take incoming information and move it to the bank of knowledge you use every day at school, at work, and in life. Here we have listed out a few cognitive skills. Perception is the interpretation of what is sensed. Visual perception refers to the brain's ability to make sense of what the eyes see, while auditory perception is the ability to identify, interpret, and attach meaning to sound. The process of perception is very much affected by attention, a phenomenon that involves incoming stimuli. Focused attention enables one to stay focused on a task despite distractions, and sustained attention to stay focused for a sustained period of time. Divided attention is a higher level skill where one has to perform two or maybe more tasks at the same time. Okay, we all are good at it, I assume, being teachers and faculties, etc. And of course, the students. Okay. And attention is required for the performance of both or all of these tasks. So that is a multitasking. Memory is a process by which knowledge is encoded, stored, and retrieved. Now, I know it is somewhat boring at this afternoon to let us do an exercise. No need to type on your result or something like that. Just say an exercise based on the memory. Let us give a try. You can practice it in your own ways. You can write it down or revise in what you call in mind. Close your eyes. No, it is not a meditative session. Just close your eyes. Say the days of the week backwards. Say the days of the week backwards. Okay, where you start will be relative. And then you can say it in alphabetical order instead of standing from Monday, Sunday, Monday, or Monday, Tuesday, etc. You can still say the days of the week in alphabetical order. Come on. Oh, please don't turn on your microphone. Just you can say it in your mind. Yes, the days of the week in alphabetical order. Okay, now we'll have the second exercise. Can you say the months of the year in alphabetical order? The months of the year in alphabetical order. Just try it in your mind. Was it easy? Well, why don't you try doing so backwards in reverse alphabetical order? Yes, it's a game. Let us try. In your mind, say the months of the year in reverse alphabetical order. Hope all are there doing this exercise. Okay, now you have figured it out. Now, another easy one. Yes, it's difficult. Actually, I didn't also try. I didn't complete it. Find the sum of your date of birth, like month, day, year. Say if it is So 10th August 2020, you can do the sum. Find the sum of your date of birth. I think this is easier. You want a tougher mind teaser? Do the same with your spouse's date of birth without looking. Do the same with your spouse's date of birth, the sum of your date of birth, day, month, year. Okay, that may be a difficult task, of course, difficult to maybe 50% or more, I assume. Now, logical reasoning. Now we have finished the discussion on memory. Now is the final one in this slide, the logical reasoning. Logical reasoning is a process of using a rational, systematic series of steps based on sound mathematical procedures and given statements to arrive at a conclusion. Okay, we have always found some logical reasoning in our day-to-day life, isn't it? Now we'll move on to the next slide. If you were the blind man, would you know it is an elephant? There is an old fable about 5 blind men who stumble upon an elephant. Not knowing what it is, they start to feel the animal. One man feels only the elephant's tusk and thinks he is feeling a giant carrot. Hope the elephant didn't move. A second man, feeling the ears, believes the object is a big fan. No, not the rotating ones, the old ones. It's an old fable. The third feels the trunk and proclaims it is a pestle, mortar or pestle, etc. While a fourth, touching only the leg, believes it is a mortar. The fifth man, touching the tail, has yet another opinion. He believes it to be a rock. Obviously, all 5 men are wrong in their conclusions because each has only examined one aspect of the elephant. If the 5 men had gotten together and shared their findings, they may have easily pieced together what kind of creature it was. This story serves as a nice metaphor for cognitive science. We can think of the elephant as a mind and the blind men as researchers in different disciplines in cognitive science. Each individual discipline may make great strides in understanding its particular subject matter, but if it cannot compare its results to those of other related disciplines, they may miss out on understanding the real nature of what it is that is being investigated. The key then is to figure out something as mysterious and complex as mind is communication and cooperation among different disciplines. Yes, we had said about the different disciplines, which comes under the cognitive studies. This is what's meant when one talks about cognitive science. Not the sum of each of the disciplines or approaches, but their union. Recent years have seen an increase in this cooperation. A number of major universities have established interdisciplinary cognitive science centers, where researchers in such diverse areas as philosophy, neuroscience, and cognitive psychology are encouraged to work together on common problems. Each area can then contribute its unique strength to the phenomenon under study. The philosophers can pose broad questions and hypotheses. The neuroscientists can measure physiological performance and brain activity, while the cognitive psychologists can design and carry out experiments. The consequent exchange of results and the ideas that leads to fruitful synergies between these disciplines, accelerating progress with respect to finding solutions to the problem and yielding insights into other research questions. So that we have to synergize every discipline. Modalities of 4 cognitive studies. Cognitive studies can be done by survey of method as well as more reliable imaging methods like EEG. Why EEG? Yeah. Studies suggest that all forms of behavior are originated in and governed by the nervous system, and thus are the product of neuronal activity. The frequency modulation of the theta rhythm appears to be related to the change of behavioral states. The electroencephalogram, EEG, is an efficient and relatively inexpensive method for the study of developmental changes in brain behavior relations. I don't say that EEG is inexpensive, but for the cognitive studies, behavioral studies, it is inexpensive. Otherwise, some will come with the costs of the instruments and say what your rubbish you are talking. Okay. The EEG signals is spontaneous but context related. EEG generated during quiet rest is quantitatively different from that generated during cognitive processing. EEG signals has temporal resolutions on the order of milliseconds. Thus, the post-synaptic changes are immediately reflected in the EEG, making this methodology outstanding for tracking rapid shifts in brain functioning. The EEG differs from the event-related potentials. That will be called as ERPs, which are waveform analysis of the brain electrical responses within the EEG signals, time locked to a specific set of stimuli. ERPs are used to capture snapshots of brain responses to discrete stimuli associated with the recognition of familiar and novel objects or sounds. The ERP, that is event-related potentials. Yes, the ERP events are brief, typically 50 or more, lesser, 500 milliseconds, or the range of 50 to 500 milliseconds. Advanced invasive and non-invasive neuroimaging techniques, such as EEG, allow researchers to directly observe brain activities, while subjects perform various perceptual, motor, and or cognitive tasks. By combining functional brain imaging with sophisticated experimental designs and data analysis methods, functions of brain regions and their interactions can be examined. The most salient feature of EEG is its high temporal resolution at a level of milliseconds. It is also a direct measure of neuronal response. A set of electrodes are placed on the scalp of the subject to obtain EEG signals. I repeat, a set of electrodes are placed on the scalp of the subject to obtain EEG signals. This technique is non-invasive since no surgery is required. So this is known as a non-invasive technique. In invasive technique, electrodes are placed directly in contact with the brain cells, which is not required for cognitive studies. That's the advantage. We prefer the EEG because it allows an examination of developmental changes without a dramatic interference with the normal ongoing behaviors. We, in birds, are now using non-invasive EEG methodology to examine correlations between brain electrical activity and working memory performance during infancy and early adolescence, and will be looking forward to study recall memory performance during toddlerhood and cognitive ability in adults. We also use EEG to describe month-to-month changes in brain development during infancy. EEG in cognitive study can be inexpensive, non-invasive, and completely passive recording technique. Our brain is one of the most intricate, complex, and fascinating elements of the universe. It allows us to remember past events, as some are always stuck in the past, process all of the present sensory impressions, and project all of your thoughts, memories, and estimations into the future. All of this is done so that we can actively search for food, interact with your surroundings, talk with the friends and family, or evade life-threatening predators. Of course, we have also have to deal with more complex everyday tasks such as writing our PhD thesis, mastering a job interview, dealing with an unsuspected psycho colleague, or maybe a bad boss, or beating your friend's Facebook or Instagram likes scores in your recent post. Yes, we are looking to our post and the number of likes you receive, and also you look at our friend's account. I know not all of us, but most of us. No matter whether you are asleep or awake, preparing the next lecture, or taking a leisure stroll around town as you think, dream, see, and sense, your brain is constantly active. It absorbs all information, compacts and rewires existing data, and integrates everything into consistent experience, both of yourself and of your surroundings. For you, that experience constitutes your reality. Your brain shapes how you see your environment. It filters and highlights the objects and information most relevant to you. Based on your thoughts, emotions, desires, and experience, your brain ultimately drives your behavior. It even controls behavioral processes without you even noticing. The building blocks of the brain. Obviously, analyzing behavior and its underlying drivers require a thorough understanding of the complexities of the human brain, both in structure and in function. To put it differently, what are the building blocks of the brain and how do they interact? Thanks to the recent progress in imaging techniques, processor technologies, data analysis procedures, and algorithms, both academic and commercial researchers are able to dive into the depths of the human brain and see how it shapes our perceptions and interactions with the world. Your brain is constantly active, generating electrical activity, which is, of course, is very subtle, significantly less than a 9-volt battery, but detectable with the right device. EEG sensors are able to pick up these tiny signals from the scarred surface. Neuroscientific research has been obtaining consistent findings and established well-accepted theories on how the EEG signals relate to cognitive, affective, or attentional processing. On the other hand, while the techniques like MRI have a great spatial resolution, they essentially measure neural activity indirectly and require a much deeper understanding of the relation between what is measured and how it relates to the cognitive processing. Brain processes ultimately drive behavior. We have said that earlier. However, if you are interested in mental processes such as response inhibition, creativity, or meditation, the behavioral effects might be very subtle. By contrast, these processes are ideal candidates for EEG as they are accompanied by distinguishable electrical brain activation patterns. EEG systems are portable, lightweight, and therefore allow for flexible data collection in real-world environments. With EEG, we can obtain insights into how the brain works, which brain areas are active, and how they interact. But how exactly are these signals generated? The human brain is the main organ of the human central nervous system. We call it the CNS. On average, it weighs about 1.4 kilogram, approximately 2% of the total body weight. Of course, that changes. Cannot say the percentage because everyone can be of different weight, and shares many properties with other vertebrate brains, including a basic divisions into different regions. Let us say hello to the brainstem, limbic system, the cerebellum, and the cerebrum. The cerebrum or cortex is the forwardmost portion and the largest part of the human brain. It is generally associated with higher brain functions such as conscious thought and the sensory processing. The cerebrum consists of two hemispheres which are connected through a mass of nerve cells, making up the corpus callosum. The cerebellum, meaning the little brain, has two hemispheres which have highly folded surfaces. The cerebellum contributes to regulation and control of fine movements, posture, and balance. The brainstem is the lower and the oldest part of the brain, comprising the midbrain, pons, and medulla. Often called the reptilian brain, it controls autonomic body processes such as heartbeat, breathing, bladder function, and sense of equilibrium. Basically, the brainstem controls everything that you want to automatically work without having to consciously think about. Yes, you don't really think about the heartbeats and you're not controlling, isn't it? The limbic system is often referred to as the emotional brain. It is buried deep within the brain and constitutes an evolutionary old structure. The limbic system includes the thalamus, hypothalamus, and amygdala. The limbic system plays a central role in arousing fight or flight situations. Of course, we are always dealing with the flight or fight situations such as the job interviews, festival shopping. No, not in the corona days, isn't it? Trips or dates with your future partner, etc. The cerebral cortex is further divided into four sections, the lobes. While there are right and left counterparts for each lobe, there are subtle differences between these hemispheres. The occipital lobe is the visual processing center of our brain, including low-level visuospatial processing, that is orientation, spatial frequency, color differentiation, and motion perception. Occipital cortex is located in the rearmost portion of the skull, as highlighted in our figure with the blue color. All things that we see are processed here. Occipital lesions are typically associated with the visual hallucinations, color or movement agnosia, as well as blindness. The temporal lobe, as highlighted with the yellow color in this slide, is associated with the processing sensory input to derived or higher meaning using visual memories, language, and emotional association. The temporal cortex is responsible for long-term memory. The left temporal cortex is involved in the comprehension of written and spoken language. Damage to these regions causes deficits in talking. There even exists a rare foreign accent syndrome caused by left temporal lesions. Affected patients sound as though they speak their native languages with a foreign accent. The parietal lobe is all about integrating information stemming from external sources, as well as the internal sensory feedback from skeletal muscles, limbs, heads, eyes, etc. Parietal cortex is responsible for merging of all these information sources into a coherent representation of how our body relates to the environment and how all things, like objects, people, etc., in the environment spatially relate to us. Tasks require our eye or hand movements as well as eye-hand coordination would be impossible with the parietal cortex, which also processes, stores, and retrieves the shape, size, and orientation of objects to be grasped. Damage in the parietal cortex has been found to cause severe disruptions in the motor behavior and object-oriented actions, as well as the out-of-body experiences. That is just like hallucinations, and some regularly takes or abuse substances or chemicals to attain that out-of-body like experiences. I heard. I haven't used that. The frontal lobe is a region where most of your conscious thoughts and decision are made. Yes, it is highlighted in the red color here. Also, frontal cortex contains motor areas where voluntary movements of all of our limbs and eyes are controlled. The frontal lobe contains most of the dopamine-sensitive neurons. This is highly relevant to be aware of since the dopamine system is responsible for any cognitive processing associated with reward, attention, short-term memory, planning, and motivation. Just like when we hear about some rewards of increment by presenting an international or publishing an international journal, we are highly motivated, isn't it? Once again, we can see in the figure the basic division made between the four lobes: occipital, temporal, parietal, and frontal. Within the popular imagination, the right hemisphere is associated with creativity and imagination, while the left hemisphere is associated with logical abilities such as numerical and spatial cognition. However, this association is phasing out as scientific research is coming up with more intricate imaging technologies. I'm not saying that it is completely wrong. Some new latest research papers sound otherwise. So these newer intricate imaging technologies and analysis techniques allow for deeper insights than ever before. Differences do exist between the hemispheres, of course, but they are more complex than the previous picture, the description. The frontal lobe activity allows you to project future consequences resulting from the current actions, select consciously between actions, and override or surpass socially unacceptable responses or actions. As all of these elements heavily depend on our learning history and surroundings, the front cortex is considered one of the core centers of our personality. Frontal lobe lesions, in fact, have been shown to cause severe changes in personality and taste preferences, pro-social behavior, as well as in action control. EEG measures the electrical activity in the brain, as we have stated earlier, through electrodes that are placed on the top of the scalp, as you can see in the top image here. There are standard methods or standard places for these electrodes to be placed on the scalp so that the studies can make comparison between one another. It measures the activity at rest or in response to the presentation of a stimulus, depending on the research question or clinical question, and it assesses localized brain responses or brain network responses, you can say, through temporal or spatial correlations of activations. On the middle right image, you can see an example of the location of the various electrodes that are placed on the scalp. And at the bottom, you can see an example readout of what that EEG or electrical activity of the brain looks like. Okay, don't worry if it is not visible. We have the next slide for in a better form. Each line represents one of the electrode placements of the brain. This method is very commonly used in epilepsy research, which are clinicians and or researchers are trying to figure out where the locus of an epileptic seizure is. A typical EEG waveforms looks like this. The y-axis has 20 readings showing the potential difference of the electrodes. The x-axis is the time axis where the potential difference is plotted in milliseconds. The amplitude is of the range of 2 millivolt. As we discussed the points to place the electrodes, there is a 10-20 system, or the international 10-20 system. It is an internationally recognized method to describe and apply the location of scalp electrodes in context of an EEG examination. This method was developed to maintain standardized testing methods, ensuring that a subject study of outcomes, that is a clinical or research, could be compiled, reproduced, and effectively analyzed using a scientific method. The system is based on the relationship between the location of an electrode and the underlying area of the brain, specifically the cerebral cortex. EEG has a very high time and frequency resolution and captures cognitive processes in the time frame in which cognition occurs. This excellent time resolution, that is, it can take hundreds or thousands, hundred to thousands of snapshots of electrical activity from multiple electrodes within a single second. This renders EEG an ideal technology to study the precise time course of cognitive and emotional processing and the underlying behavior. Most cognitive processes occur within tens to hundreds of milliseconds, much faster than the blink of eye. In addition, the events triggering the cognitive processes occurs in time sequences that spans hundreds of milliseconds to a few seconds. Here we can say the brain waves, what you call. Of course, while searching in YouTube or something like that, you must have come across some videos with sounds requiring brain waves, resonating frequencies, frequencies or sound for what you call deep meditation, sound for sleep, etc. Sound for relaxation, called as the binaural beats, etc., etc. That's all based on the brain waves. Brain waves are oscillating electrical voltages in the brain, measuring just a few millions of a volt. There are few widely recognized brain waves, and the main frequencies of the human EEG waves are listed along with their characteristics in a figure. Various regions of the brain do not emit the same brainwave frequencies simultaneously. An EEG signal between electrodes placed on the scalp consists of many waves with different characteristics. The large amount of data received from even one single EEG recording makes interpretation difficult. The brainwave patterns are every individual. Yes, like a fingertip. Because these frequencies vary slightly dependent on individual factors, stimulus, properties, and internal states, research classify these frequencies based on the specific frequency range or frequency bands. The delta band you can see roughly here in the figure, which is roughly 1 to 4 hertz, theta band 4 to 8 hertz, alpha band 9 to 13. I say roughly, not exactly 13 band, etc. Roughly 9 to 13 hertz. Beta band, which is 14 to 30 hertz, and the gamma band, which is greater than 30 hertz, which can be up to 100 hertz, which is the normal range of the brain waves, 1 to 100 hertz. Alpha and theta oscillations reflect cognitive and memory performance. Alpha waves have several functions or functional correlates reflecting sensory, motor, and memory functions. We can see increased levels of alpha band power during mental and physical relaxation with eyes closed. Yes, one can call meditation or something else. Or something. Okay. If you attain it by just listening to music, or maybe when I am shaving with a straight razor, I will be concentrating only on that process for the 10 minutes so that it won't cut. So that is a sort of meditation. It will be different for different persons. By contrast, alpha power is reduced or suppressed during mental or body activities with eyes open. Of course, I don't say that I am using a straight razor by closed eyes. Alpha suppression continues. Evaluate signature of states of mental activity and engagement. For example, using during focused attention towards any type of stimulus. We can also say that alpha suppression indicates that your brain is gearing up to pick up information from various senses, coordinating attentional resources and focusing on what really matters in that particular moment. Studies consistently report that the frontal theta activity, theta is that the 4 to 8 hertz waves, the frontal theta activity correlate with the difficulty of mental operations. For example, during focused attention and information uptake, the processing and learning, or during a memory record, theta frequencies become more prominent with the increasing task difficulty. That is why theta is generally associated with brain processes underlying mental workload or working memory. Yes, you are giving stress to your subordinates or juniors or students and say that we are stimulating their theta waves. Can we say that? Beta power becomes stronger as we plan or execute movements, particularly when reaching or grasping requires fine finger movements and focused attention. Since sleep is associated with memory consolidation, delta frequencies plays a core role in the formation and internal arrangement of biographic memory as well as acquired skills and information. We have the EEG cognitive study-based applications. These are the areas where the cognitive study can be applied, also commercially. Like in the neuromarketing, economists use EEG research to detect brain processes that drive consumer decisions. You know how the various objects are placed in a supermarket, the food, etc., the items are for regular provisions, etc., will be placed at last. And most of them, it will be completely covered that we will not have the sense of the outer world, how many time we spend there, etc. Human EEG factors, human factors. EEG research is used to identify brain processes related to specific personality traits such as intro or extroversion or social anxiety. Social interaction. Brain processes related to social perception, self-evaluation, and behavior are investigated. Importantly, social interactions and communications are not passive forms of processing incoming stimuli. Psychology and neuroscience. Psychological studies utilize the EEG to study the brain processes underlying attention, learning, and memory. In clinical and psychotic studies, they use the EEG to evaluate patients' cognitive states, determine the lesion sites, and classify symptoms. Brain-computer interfaces. EEG applications to steer devices using brain activity. This can, for help paralyzed patients steer the wheelchair or move a cursor on screen. And thank you for the patient listening. The session is not over yet. The technical applications will be explained by my colleague, Ms. Harsha A., who is an active founder member of BIRDS. So I'm stopping the slide sharing now, and Ms. Harsha will be continuing.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Hope that you are able to hear my sound.
Yes, ma'am. You're audible.
So, so for the past presentation by Sujit sir, he was explaining about the anatomy behind EEG capturing and how the EEG waveform looks like, and what are the major application of EEG. One of the major application of EEG is in cognitive study. There are a lot of other applications also EEG. Before starting the presentation, I'm giving an overview about what my presentation is going on, or what is the fruitful content you will get it from my presentation. So it is completely dealing with if you are working a project or if you are planning to do some research on EEG based data, you should have the knowledge of anatomy behind EEG capturing and the information capturing in EEG signal. In addition to that, if you're designing a system, you should have a mathematical modeling. So I'm discussing about the mathematical modeling and the mathematics background needed for working behind EEG signal. So I'm explaining this with the help of two case studies, which we have already done or implemented from 2012 onwards. On behalf of BIRDS, I thank Lizana and Ignatius sir for giving me and supporting me in all my works, for giving me an opportunity to collaborate with the doctors and neuroclinic hospitals and centers to collect the data and giving references and relevant information regarding EEG. Okay, so that's it. That's all about the overview of my presentation. Now I'm dealing with, I'm going to present. And if you are having any doubts regarding my presentation, you can ask the question through chat box. Okay, so I am starting from the last slide of previous presentation. You have seen the EEG signal. So the first study which came from EEG is, uh, are you able to see my slides? I changed the
Yes, ma'am.
slide. Are you able to see my slides?
Yes, ma'am, but not in full screen. But yes,
Yes.
now it's gone.
One second.
Hello.
There is a technical problem. I will log out and I will come within a second. Hello. Hello. Hope that now you are able to see my slides.
Now it's visible, ma'am.
Okay, we will start from the last slide of previous presentation. So the first analysis was come on the basis of an EEG signal consists of lot of frequency bands. That frequency bands is divided into different bands: alpha, beta, theta, delta, gamma, etc. And the relevance of each band is already discussed by Sujit sir. So look into the right part of the waveform and you can see that, you can just think that, okay, if I'm only able to extract an alpha wave only from the EEG signal which captured from the electrodes, you are able to see that the alpha wave will contain details regarding the mentally relaxed state. So if I'm a person which is interested in studying cognitive analysis or study behavior, cognitive study analysis means a lot of applications are there. I'm only taking the applications of study disorder or whether a student is having any problem in study or something related to that work or a meditation application, then a researcher only interested in taking alpha wave. So obviously in our mind, okay, design a system to extract the alpha wave only and go for analysis on the alpha wave. If somebody is interested in a disease such as an epileptic behavior, then the person is interested in beta wave extraction. So the first research ideas and all the researchers are interested in separating the frequency bands from the incoming EEG signal and do analysis on the basis of these bands. I will tell you that is not a complete method. There are a lot of problems associated with this. Anyway, we started, myself and Lizana started this work from 2010 onwards on behalf of EEG analysis. So I will just explain about what are the problems, what are the mathematical problems as an engineer will face when you are dealing with EEG analysis or synthesis or system level processing. So I'm taking only one application. Just think that we are interested or we are going for a work for taking the mental condition that if a person is normal or if it is in a depression stage. This is not a, it is a very basic level block diagram. I'm explaining just this one. Whatever may be the application happening with respect to EEG signal, your first aim is that extract the features which is needed for your particular application or your particular requirement from the EEG signal. So extract the features and getting the features or fruitful features or efficient features. I will stress the word efficient features. There are a lot of features for EEG signal. The aim of an engineer is to extract the efficient features, and using these efficient features, you should go for classification. So classification on the basis of your application. So the strong two blocks when an engineer design EEG analysis or synthesis is what are the features? What are the features required for your mode of application? And what should be my classifier to decide whether it is a, if your application is a disease criteria, then efficient classifier for detecting it is a disease or a healthy person. If it is a cognitive study, you have to decide what is the disorder for that particular student or a particular EEG signal associated with. So we are talking whatever may be your application, the strong blocks are feature extraction and classification. So I'm just giving an overview about what are the existing feature extraction methods, and I will compare all these features and which will be the dominant feature according to or how you should select the feature according to your application. If you're having any doubts, you can ask. The features which is dominant from the start of research was blind source separation. So I'm stressing about blind source separation because you think about, I will show the signal once again, but before showing the signal, you already have seen most of them are working in this particular area, EEG. Just all of you can think about that. If an EEG, we can, in signal processing point of view, a signal can be classified as a stationary signal and a non-stationary signal. So before starting your work, you should have a knowledge about what you mean by a stationary signal, what you mean by a non-stationary signal. That means you can design a system either in the time domain or you can design a system in the frequency domain. So obviously your front end of whatever may be the system will be sensor. The sensor output will be we will check it that whether it is a stationary or non-stationary. Stationary means it should show a stationary behavior either in the time domain or in the frequency domain. Irrespective of the branch of study, we are designing systems either in the time domain or in the frequency domain. So before going to the processing techniques, you should have a knowledge about whether the incoming signal is stationary in time or stationary in frequency domain. So stationary in time domain means it is having a stationary period. So all of you can imagine that if it is a stationary in time domain, if you are having a thought in your EEG, the same thought whether it will come in the next day in the same time, obviously not, right? So we are not able to say that the signal is not stationary in time domain. Again, you can think about that frequency of occurrence of a particular dream. You can think about whether you are seeing the same dream repeatedly. Rarely, sometimes we are seeing, I will tell you that is also why it is happening. So the same dream is not happening in all the time. So the frequency of occurrence of the same instant is also not happening. So that is the main problem with EEG processing. The signal that you are dealing in EEG is it is not stationary in time domain and not stationary in the frequency domain. So you should have a better knowledge about what should be the solution for them. What are the features or how will you extract the features from your EEG signal? That is why in the last presentation also I was mentioning that EEG signal is showing a very high resolution in the time domain as well as in the frequency domain. So information regarding uh, or information is there both in the time domain as well as in the frequency domain, or you require features from the time as well as frequency for efficient analysis. Okay, so if your factor of designing technique is efficiency, then you require the features from both time as well as frequency. But we are not able to say that, okay, efficiency is the only criteria because some application we require in real-time processing. Because suppose you are going for a surgery or a brain death condition or an epilepsy detection, the patient should get information about the disease is going to happen. In the case of epilepsy, I'm only talking about an example. If an epilepsy case, if you are designing a system and you are giving an alert to the patient, then the patient can properly sit in somewhere so that he is in a stable condition, or he can alarm to the parents regarding, okay, I'm having a symptom of epilepsy. In the case of doctors, if they are doing a surgery, they need the information prior. So efficiency, if you go for efficiency, real time will be sacrificing. So depending upon your application, whether it is a real time or efficiency, you should sacrifice which all features you should select and whether you should go for which type of classifier. Okay. So such the research happening in EEG is a blind source because it is not showing any stationary behavior. So the first approach is coming for dealing extracting features is using principal component analysis, PCA, and independent component analysis. Due to lack of time, I'm not explaining how you are taking all these features. You can ask me separately if you are interested in finding what all of these features, or you can Google it, you will get it done. After that research, then each signal, you can see that if somebody is there or you are having a knowledge of speech signal processing, the waveforms of EEG and speech is showing much similarity. So the tool used for analyzing speech as well as EEG, you can use short time Fourier transform. Again, there are a lot of problems related with short time Fourier transform. So the third feature which extraction method comes is wavelet. It is more dominant, and in 90s and all the processing techniques was based on wavelet because wavelet is a flexible kernel. You are able to extract both the time as well as frequency features using wavelet by properly selecting the wavelets. So from the word, by properly selecting the wavelet, again the problem is that the wavelet kernel should have a good correlation with your input signal. In this case, it should show a good correlation with the EEG signal. So a single wavelet may not satisfy all these conditions, so you can use multi-wavelet. That was the second term which come after the recovery of wavelet transfer after the application of wavelet for EEG signal. Then in 2000s and fractals came. Fractals is a part of the wave and it can be using affine transformation. I will say again stress on the word affine transformation. Using affine transform, it will show self-similarity property. That is the key word behind fractals. So EEG will show self-similarity property. So using fractals, you can extract features. Again, after fractals, multifractal methods will come. Then this is our transform domain methods. Till up to multifractals, what I discussed was regarding transform domain methods or frequency domain methods to extract the features from the EEG signal. Another way of approach is that you should model the EEG itself. It's a very good term or very good way of doing the analysis. You are replicating or you are mimicking the signal back, or you are mathematically writing equation for generating EEG signal. That is the idea behind modeling. So using autoregressive models. Autoregressive models are used for modeling technique for non-stationary signals. So using non-stationary autoregressive models, you can mimic the signal back, and you are finding the error between the mimicked signal with your current occurrent data. And according to the error obtained, you are able to predict the analysis. That is the idea behind autoregressive models. The standard method used for autoregressive or prediction model was linear prediction techniques. Linear prediction techniques is basic of statistical signal processing, but again that will be a failure in the case of EEG signals. So the advanced one is fractional linear prediction techniques. So in my presentation, I will tell about what are the good features that we will get it from wavelet transform and fractional linear prediction method. Currently, we are working on chaotic method for extracting features because Sir was mentioning that we are working in cognitive studies. So we are interested in time series modeling. So chaos is a very good tool for doing extracting features in time domain. So that's all regarding the history behind features and what are the methods used for features. Next level is classification. The classification methods, the standard one is fuzzy classifiers are there, then support vector machine. Uh, till past 5 years, the dominant method used was support vector machine because support vector machine classification is based on statistical parameters. So it will show a good result comparing with the rest of the technique. After that, CNN came into play. So CNN is also now used for analysis of EEG signals. But the problem with the CNN is that the case of CNN, the first layer is a convolutional layer. So the convolutional kernels are already built in. We are not able to change the kernel. So if you only require the statistical kernel. So for designing statistical kernel using CNN is a difficult task. You require the permission from the software design areas or the persons who is supporting the software. So CNN, but for some application, we are able to use CNN based technique. So I'm explaining the criteria based on based on two case studies. I will speed up my presentation. Uh, Case studies. First case study we have done on the analysis of epilepsy classification based on ANFIS and SPM, an adaptive neuro-fuzzy classifier and support vector machine. The objective was to classification of epilepsy using these two techniques, and we compared the result, performance, and as a system point of view, whether it is a real time or not. That all things we are discussing. So I'm just speeding up my presentation. So you can see that epilepsy is of mainly two types. It is of generalized epilepsy and it is of partial epilepsy. From the generalized epilepsy, you can see that the variations are happening in all the electrodes. You can see that there is a pattern variation happening in all the electrodes. But in the case of partial epilepsy, the variation is not happening in all the electrodes. Some electrodes are showing variations. So electrodes, you can see that there is a fixed pattern. Some pattern nature is showing for epileptic seizures. So these pattern variations are divided into spike and a wave. and polyspikes. So this is a detailed picture regarding how a spike will look like, how a sharp wave will look like, and how a spike and a wave will look like. So the seizure condition, we call it as the ictal period, and before the seizure, some variations will show. That period we call it as the interictal period. So interictal periods will occur as a short wave reports, and ictal periods will be continuously. You can see the variations in the waveform. So if an application is to give an information regarding a person regarding an epileptic condition is going to happen, we are interested in the interictal period. So by detecting from the interictal period, the patient will get an information regarding whether the patient is going to have an epileptic seizure or not. So the some features that we get from the discussion with the doctors is that in the interictal period, the spikes are very fast, less than 70 milliseconds, and you will get an information about a slow wave will happen at least 3 times, minimum 3 times. So you can count that also for a prediction of okay, there is a chance for epilepsy is going to happen. So from the first presentation result, we are telling that your EEG is in millisecond, and if it is a seizure case, we are having a range of 80 to 200 milliseconds is for sharp burst. So what is our aim is that whether a spike is happening, design some system or filters for extracting spikes, polyspikes or sharp bursts from the signal. So this is the basic block diagram for our methodology. You will have an EEG signal, and after that we go for wavelet decomposition, and after that wavelet is used. Here wavelet I used for extracting features. Wavelet transform features are extracted, and using SVM, two classifiers are used, and we analyze the performance of which one is a better classifier in point of efficiency and in point of real time. So why we go for 5-level decomposition is that we done first level decomposition, 2-level decomposition. We got the better result by performing 5-level decomposition. After that, the efficiency is sacrificing. So we done with 5-level decomposition. We are using Dobiscius wavelet for extracting features. That is a wavelet kernel used because it is showing maximum correlation with our EEG signal. Other wavelets we can use this Mexican hat, and Mollet is also showing good correlation with the EEG signal. These are the 3 wavelets we are using for analysis of EEG. So after finding wavelet transform from the detailed component, so the persons who are working in wavelet, they know that wavelet transform consists of 2 filters, a low pass filter and a high pass filter. Low pass filter will give you detailed information, and high pass filter will give you approximation information. From the low pass filter information, we are finding features. These are the main features that we considered, because EEG we are only able to use statistical features. So second order statistical features means mean and variance. So these are the main features associated with mean and variance. So in statistical, all the decisions we are taking on the basis of power. So power and energy. So mean trigger energy, entropy is again related to information. Then median, curve length. You can see all these features by Google. If you are having any doubts, you can mail me. And kurtosis is also a higher order statistical feature. It is not a second order feature. And after taking all these features, we are giving all these features for a classifier. This is the adaptive neurofuzzy classifier. Some of them will work in fuzzy classifier because it is a non-stationary signal. The coefficients used for training the data in fuzzy layer, especially in the first layer, is the adaptive layer. The coefficient or the ways used for triggering is make it as an adaptive, and the decision is based on the regression coefficient for minimizing the error. Support vector machine is also used as a statistical classifier. This classifier is based on the decision of we are making a cluster and we are finding the second order statistics, and according to that we are making a margin whether it belong to a diseased condition or whether it does not belong to a undiseased or a healthy person. So different kernels are tried in our case, and after that we find it as quadratic kernels are showing good performance in the case of EG classification. And our platform was MATLAB. All these toolboxes are available in MATLAB, and all the kernels are also available. So the dataset used in our cases is the original dataset that we collected from the hospitals in and around Cochin, and each dataset consists of BrainTech is the software used for taking EEG dataset, and the software used was the RLS software. If somebody is interested in working in the real scenario, they should install the RLS software in your laptop, otherwise you are not able to see the waveform. So the data is recorded for a period of 10 millisecond duration, and each 10 millisecond duration is divided into 10 frames. That is, each frame consists of 1 millisecond. And in the software itself, it is a provision for converting the data into Word file format. Okay, I will wind up here very firstly. So these are the case studies. These are the features you can see from this features that energy is showing the good result. Mean energy is not showing good result. So if your aim is to classify disease condition, energy is a strong feature. So we find energy and interquartile range is a good feature. But if you go for interesting in cognitive study, mean energy is a good feature because you require the person to be normal, right? So after classification, you can see that these are the result of classification, and we are successfully able to complete the classification better. And these are the ranges of features. You can see that mean figure energy is a better feature, and we did the work completely related to the mean figure energy. Because of lack of time, I am running the slides. So I'm concluding my first thing that, okay, out of the 100 training sets, 100 data set is epochs is used for training, 100 data set is epochs is used for testing. Closely, 100% we are able to classify with the support of mean figure energy. But the problem with this work is that efficiency is higher, but performance is real time is lower. Okay, I'm not, due to lack of time, I'm not telling about the fractional order calculus of EEG signals. Those who are interested, I'm sending the currently, I'm telling by this slide only. This is the second case study I'm not telling. Now we are working in EEG time series modeling and analysis using quantum chaos background to study the cognitive analysis. For any information, you can contact with us. The core team of Bio Instruments Research and Development Society consists of these members. You can mail to us. We are having a WhatsApp group, and doctors and engineers are there. So we will give you the, we will circulate the a form. Those who are interested to collaborate with birds, they can contact us. Okay, that's all.
We have one or two questions in the chat box. First question: it was from Father Arun Jose. Does it mean that reviewing the statistical summary of signals, you decipher whether it is a stationary or non-stationary frequency?
Further, what will be the signal? Before processing, you should have a knowledge about what is the type of the signal. So from the basic signals, we are plotting the power spectrum, then we are checking that whether it is showing any stationary behavior in the frequency domain. From that, and also in the time, we are checking that whether we are able to find out any Fourier transforms or time series analysis. From that, we are able to say that it is non-stationary. Okay, further your second question that if you don't mind, please suggest some reading materials to complement classifier's mode of activity.
Further, we read all this from standard journals. In IEEE itself, biomedical journals and separate journals is for EEG. If you are interested, you can mail to me. I will send the links, all the links and the data sets you require for doing this work.
So this is the end of the session by words. Thank you, Sudhit sir and Harsha ma'am. Now over to you, Akash sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ritu James, Ms. Harsha, and Mr. Sujit. Today we come to the end of the day one presentation. And
Mail
okay,
to
yes.
you.
Yes. Here we mailed the feedback form as well as we put in the WhatsApp also. We request all of you to fill this as soon as possible. And tomorrow we have two eminent speakers. One is Dr. Saeed Asif. He is having 22 years of experience with Broker. Actually, everybody is know about Broker. It is very it's a multinational company in the fame of nano characterization. And he was head. Before that, he was doing his PhD from IIC Bangalore. And another speaker is Professor Dr. Bikramjit Basu. He is a professor in IIC Bangalore. He is a recipient of Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Award. We request all of you be ready in the stick on the schedule. And important to note that please keep audio and video mute because these speakers may not like interruptions. We request all of you to kindly mute the audio and video. And thank you all of you for listening and all the speakers and all the participants. And here we come to the end of the day one, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye.